Betty, are you there?
I am. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Betty. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Great. Well, we're happy to have you. Betty, I have to say, I just love this organization. The video testimonies of the women on the website are so powerful. I so very much enjoyed watching them, and they made some excellent points. And, of course, each one was so honest and so earnest and so sincere. Here we have what seems to be a bunch of soccer moms standing up and crying out for safer and more sensible drug policies for the sake of our children's future. And I just have to say, wow, what a statement. I myself had joined immediately. So,
well, we're glad to have you, Jen.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you personally got involved as an activist in the movement for cannabis law reform.
Well, I've been an activist since almost before I could walk. My parents instilled in me a strong sense of civic duty and sense of duty to change my world, and I've been doing that through activism since I was a child. So when presented with the opportunity to create change here in Colorado, specifically in the marijuana and drug policy world, it was a very easy fit. I've spent the last 17 years as a Coloradan working in nonprofits, in social justice, in education, and related fields. But about 3 years ago, I became involved in medical marijuana, and that has brought me to this point at which I am the executive director of the Women's Marijuana Movement, as well as the advocacy director for Amendment 64, the campaign to regulate marijuana like alcohol.
Yeah, and what a wonderful campaign that is. How is that looking right now?
We have volunteers on the ground across the state who are talking to people about marijuana and its relative safety as compared to alcohol, and why it is they're choosing marijuana as adults. And we've also got actions going online and on the ground here to talk to folks. In fact, on the subject of Mother's Day, we do have an action online available if folks visit regulatemarijuana.org. We'd love to have them participate in the action to talk to their moms about why marijuana is a sensible choice when compared to alcohol.
Well, that's excellent, and it's an excellent time to take that opportunity to do so. I think it's very important for us to educate our family members, especially those who may not have been exposed to a lot of the information before. We've been doing a lot of talking about cannabis curing cancer, and that was one of our focuses this week as well, or this weekend for Mother's Day, was the focus on breast cancer. And, of course, the strides being made medically with cannabis in that field. So, by all means, I just think that is such important information and such an important message. We've been fooled for so long, and we've been lied to that the little blurbs and the propaganda has almost become natural to our dialect. Even those who are very educated on the topic are so accepting of prohibition in the state it's in now. So I think we need to take people back because they don't have a clear perspective of a lot of the detrimental fallout from prohibition. We need to take them back to the days of alcohol prohibition and let them see, the parallels there, because there are so many.
This is something that we're talking to people about, both within the context of the Women's Marijuana Movement and within the context of the campaign. What we know about prohibition is that it is the worst possible situation for our children. high schoolers report that marijuana is easier to find than alcohol, and even tobacco in some cases. We know that, for adults on campuses, that alcohol contributes regularly to violence, both assault and sexual violence, and our young women are at risk because alcohol is in our culture encouraged and marijuana is not allowed. And when we talk about comparing prohibition of alcohol to prohibition of marijuana, what we see is that the exact same social problems caused by alcohol prohibition we're living them today with marijuana prohibition. We have increased criminality, children exposed to undesirable impacts, a general disregard for the rule of law by people who use the substance anyway. The comparisons are perfect. And what we also know about alcohol prohibition is that it never would have been repealed without the efforts of the Women's Organization for National Prohibition Women's Organization for National Prohibition Repeal, and the efforts of women who saw that their children, their families, and their communities would be safer when alcohol was regulated, taxed, and placed back into a legal context. And that's the exact same thing that's happening today with marijuana prohibition.
Right, and I think, another difference, a difference between what's happening today with marijuana prohibition, drug prohibition, the drug laws in general, as opposed to the prohibition of alcohol back in the day, is we've had 50 years to develop, a whole new set of organized crime, and it's extremely organized and it runs extremely deep. So we kind of let the train get out of control, if you want to use that analogy. Mm-hmm. So we have our work cut out for us, but I do believe that it can be done, and who better to do it than a bunch of mothers? We're so used to making things right, so to speak, mm-hmm. that it's the perfect job for us. It really is.
Absolutely. And on the topic of mothers and Mother's Day, I certainly couldn't be doing this work without the encouragement and support of my wonderful mother, who has never used marijuana, but understands that the work that we're doing here in Colorado is critically important to the safety of our communities, and she's been such a positive supporter throughout all of this experience, and my grandmothers as well, who have inspired me to create change in my community. So happy Mother's Day to them.
Oh, that's so great. Now, are you a mommy yourself, Betty?
I am an aunt, a professional aunt, as they say.
That's wonderful.
I have a large number. I have a number of young people in my life who are very important to me and bring me great joy, and I'm excited to develop a world where they're going to be able to be educated accurately about marijuana and make safer choices when it comes time.
No, that's wonderful. Now, tell us about the women's marijuana movement. How did they originate?
The women's marijuana movement is a project of SAFER, and SAFER has been working in Colorado since 2005 to change marijuana policy here in the state. About a year ago, in fact, a year ago, when on Mother's Day or leading up to Mother's Day, a large number of mothers and young women came together to announce the project, the Women's Marijuana Movement, in an effort to draw attention to the fact that women really are leading the charge for more sensible marijuana policy and are deeply engaged in marijuana policy reform. When we think about the culture of marijuana and marijuana policy, we don't often think of mothers, but the fact of the matter is that moms, many moms, recognize that our broken policy of prohibition is failing our children as much as it is failing our tax systems and our criminal justice systems, and that children will be safer when marijuana policy is reformed and marijuana prohibition is repealed. So
yes.
These moms came together at that time to talk about that, and we're creating an online forum. We have an online forum on which women are able to share their stories and talk about why policy reform is important to them. The primary project that the Women's Marijuana Movement is working on right now is, of course, the campaign to regulate marijuana like alcohol here in Colorado.
Right. You know, there was one statement made, and I'm sorry, I cannot recall the lady's name at this time. It was the blonde who was standing up with her little girl in her arms. But
Jessica Peck. She's a dear friend of the movement.
Yeah, she made a statement that I just thought it really hit home. It was a one-liner, but it was so true. And that was that